This is where the fun begins.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is OG Star Wars, your Legends girl, trying to make it in this discounted world, and I haven't used that phrase in a long time. Yeah. And I'm so happy to be with you guys today. It's afternoon and yours evening for me. And I am so excited and happy to have we have GB, our Jedi Luke here, and thank you for coming on. And how are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing very well. Very well. Happy to be here.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm wearing my my Heir to the Empire shirt.
Oh, that's too nice. I like that. I'm still kind of in pajama mode. That's why I'm not on camera, because I had a lazy morning, and so just working on things around the house, and I never fully got ready. So, but we're here, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you again, Jedi Luke. I always want to say Lukee, but it's Luke, right?
It's either or. My real name is Luke, but it's either or.
Okay. You just wanted the 2E to be kind of more distinctive.
Yeah.
At least you didn't do Luke.
Yeah, that would have been a disaster.
Right. And I pinned this quote right here because I really think, and I friggin' missed the I in Kenobi, so sorry about that. But I really like this quote right here. Because this really is a pivotal moment for Luke as well. Sure. Exactly. So I pinned that there for people to enjoy. And we have Zachariah 315. Thank you for coming in. And then Anakin Solo. Hello there. Hello, Anakin Solo. How are you doing today? And then Logan, General Kenobi. I always think of Grievous when I see that. General Kenobi.
Yeah, hello there, and then that response.
Right. And then you're a bold one. Oh, so we have an actor acting out right now. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then I want to share something real quick before we move on. Starting in November, I'm going to have, just like I did with the Mistress of Rattatak, I'm going to have a campaign for the channel members. So when you attend any live stream through November to January, wow, we're already there. This year went by quick, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So between November and January, channel members, and if you become a member during that time and you participate, your name will still be put in. We'll have a chance to receive a copy of this painting. It's almost completed. This is Son of Kifu. And so we have Kifix and Kifu. So planets. I didn't want to leave the sister planet out of there since they're twin planets.
Yeah,
so,
very nice.
Yes. So I'm excited about that. So you guys, if you haven't became a member yet, what are you waiting for? Yeah, I have some great incentives for you guys. And then we also have, I have this Talking EU, and it's not just for like people in my inner circle. It's for anybody that I've been talking with that I realize, oh, wow, okay, I want to learn more. And it could be you, it could be Soul Assassin, it could be Stig Kenobi, it could be anyone that I'll bring in next to interview. So, and then speaking of, hi, Stig. How you doing?
Hey, Stig.
What's up? My co-host for Coffee Chat. And then Soul Assassin, Luke, did you ever get those power converters? Plot hole of A New Hope.
I did. I fixed the plot hole.
Awesome. All right. So let's get going with this. So what was your first experience with Star Wars, if you don't mind sharing?
So I think my first experience with Star Wars was actually when I was 3 years old, because my name is Luke and I was born in 95. So when I was 3 years old, every single person in my family spoiled the twist, the I am your father twist. So everybody in my family was just like, every time I saw them was like, Luke, I am your father. And I'm like, what? And so then a year later, I saw the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I get it. And then I loved it. I thought it was great. And then, the prequels were coming out right there, and then took off from there.
Wow. Okay. So now I'm curious. So your family's a big Star Wars family, right?
Ironically, no. It's just because that was like so ingrained in pop culture that like
Okay.
I really have like one uncle that's into it. Everyone else is like, eh. So ironically, like non-Star Wars fans spoiled it for me.
Oh, okay.
It's like
All right.
Yeah.
I know, because I was wondering about that, because your name, that's officially your name then, Luke.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so that's all we need to know. But so that's why I asked you about that. And now I could see why they were doing that to you and how that kind of took the first time experience away from you. That's a bit tragic.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Especially when I was 3 and I didn't even know what it was yet.
Yeah. And you're like, why is my mom saying that she's my father?
It's like, aren't you my uncle, my grandpa? Like, what's going on?
Right. And so we have Miss Martin Muses here with her signature hand wave and rose. Me and Stig always laugh about this because he always says that she's slapping the rose. That's what it means. She's slapping the rose. And then Shane Nolan, Miss Martin Muses raid. By the way, YouTube never gives a notification to the stream. That's the thing. You guys always go check the channels that you're subscribed to. Hit the notification and also make sure that or the bell, and make sure that you can get alerts for it. Mind you, YouTube, it's a BS world when it comes to it. So always stay on top of your stuff. You can always see on the side, if you go on computers or laptops, you can always see who's live on the side profile on your YouTube. So always go back and check that. And then Soul Assassin, Lukee, am your father's girlfriend prison roommate. He probably says, Luke, I'm your. That's probably what he's saying.
I knew it's Soul Assassin. I knew that's who you were.
Yeah. And then he said, the family spoiled, the family twist, ironic.
Yeah.
And then Shane Nolan, by the way, like the new avatar, Laura. Thank you so much. All right. So what was your first movie you seen then?
First Star Wars movie? Yeah, it was A New Hope. I watched the the 1995 box set.
Mm-hmm.
So my cousins had that, so I watched one after the other, and then that was when I was 4. So I watched Phantom Menace a year later, and then so it was really those first 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So between those movies that you watched, once you watched the OT, which one was your favorite?
I think right from the get-go was Return of the Jedi.
Ah, you're my man. That's my favorite as well. I mean, I love Empire Strikes Back. I love how they put it on a cliffhanger, and I love the scene between him, Luke, and Vader, and what develops from it, the plot twist turn in it. However, I believe the Return of the Jedi has one of the most pivotal moments in, for the hero, for the plot, the redemption arc. Yeah. And even the duel, even though it's way different than what we got in the PT. The PT, we got more of the Jedi training fleshed out versus, Luke is coming into training. He's getting unconventional training.
Right.
Yeah. Versus the very conventional, strict, rigorous training that they got in the temple before.
Right. Plus in Return of the Jedi, it was more, he was acting on instinct anyway, where it was just the clashing kind of thing.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Like he wanted to protect those he loved, and that was always Luke. That was always, he always wanted to protect.
Despite what a giant corporation will tell you, but that was always him.
Isn't that the debate though these days? It's like you can go onto Twitter and debate that. Like you can always see that someone throwing out some BS and and saying this is how it's really supposed to be.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
And I'm like, was that really George's intention? Because really, the creator's intention is how it's supposed to be, not the corporation owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so let's see here. With the PT, what'd you think about the PT, the prequel trilogy, when you seen that after watching OT and stuff?
I loved it because to me, again, I didn't grow up in the original trilogy generation. So for me, it was just Star Wars. Like I noticed a difference with like CG and everything, but it never bothered me as a kid.
Hmm.
And I loved it. I loved Qui-Gon. I loved Jar Jar. I loved young Obi-Wan. I love the world. Like even as a kid, like I was 5 years old, and I still appreciated all the world building that he did.
Hmm.
Like I thought they were brilliant, to be honest. And then when I was 10 years old, and you get to Revenge of the Sith, the last one, I was like, I was older. I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, what are people complaining about?
Right, right. So with the PT, what is your favorite?
I think still Phantom Menace is my favorite.
Awesome. And I don't hardly hear that, but I love Phantom Menace for the introduction. Some people will debate that Luke or Anakin should have been a lot older. I think that if he was a lot older, I don't think it would make much sense because he's still very young when they brought him into training, but not young as the age that they bring people into training. Yeah.
Because I feel like if he was 19, like Luke was, I think they really wouldn't have accepted him because, 8 years old, it's not that much. But
right.
If he was 19, like you'd really have to stretch your imagination and be like, oh, he'd be accepted. Even if he was a chosen one, it's like you'd still have to stretch your imagination or suspension of disbelief for it.
Right. And then having it that young of an age, it's like you're in that gray area. Okay, well, he's not that old, but he's, he may be old enough, even though he's older than what we accept. And so, but if you're 19, like you said, it takes all that talk. They say, well, you're too old for training, blah, blah, blah. And I think it would take away Luke's training as well.
Yeah.
About them bringing him in because they already prepared. They already learned their mistakes from what had happened in the prequel era. And why, the Jedi stayed stagnant because Yoda, and I know you're probably familiar with Revenge of the Sith novelization, talked about it plenty of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that Yoda realized that there was mistakes that he was training the Jedi to face any Sith from the past, like 1,000 years ago, versus, allowing them to progress and grow and train for the future.
Right. I think Yoda's, like when Yoda realized it, it was like, I was training the Jedi for the war that we had won instead of like going on. So I thought in both, like obviously George Lucas's script, but Matthew Stover's words, I thought that was just like honestly beautifully done. Like that chapter was chef's kiss.
Right. And it just gives me chills thinking about the New Jedi Order chapter, because even he was like, Luke is going to be the one to, recreate the order, making it in a New Jedi Order kind of deal. And and then it goes beautifully into post Return of the Jedi era, because what Yoda expected happened.
Yeah, and that goes with the quote that you have here, where Obi-Wan says, "Not the last of the old Jedi, but the first of the new."
Right.
Like it just flows perfectly.
Right. Exactly. Continuity matters, right?
Exactly. Well, not these days, but back then it did.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. It all matters and stuff. All right. So I believe we know who your favorite movie character is for the OT. It would be Luke, right?
Yeah, it would be Luke. Yeah.
Okay. And so give reason, like tell us a little bit more, or, elaborate more on why.
Well, simply for the reason that he's the pure embodiment of hope. Like we saw all the trials and from farm boy to, Jedi novice and Empire to, what's the word? Fletchling or whatever, Jedi Knight and Return of the Jedi. He's always stood for hope. He's always gotten back up. He's taken what he's learned, and his experiences, and he turned into something new. And even before I read the EU, like when I was 4 and I just saw the movies, I knew that Luke was going to just show, like he was going to be like the beacon of light in the galaxy. Like he gives you the audience, he gives us so much hope, and he's what we in real life aspire to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to run away from our mistakes.
Exactly. Especially that quote from the Legacy comics of his ghost, where I think he says something like to the effect of, it's like we all have our inner demons, like we all have to fight like our dangers, like who are you to run away kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
That was Skywalker, yeah.
Oh yes, that right there. And Cade is sitting there fighting, and he's like, well, what did that give us? Being a Skywalker, what has that, given us through the generations and stuff, so he's fighting himself. And we do see kind of like, even with Cade, he does significantly turn around, but his lessons he faced a lot harder than Luke has ever because of his stubbornness.
Yeah, not to mention Cade is not Luke anyway, so he's allowed to be like that kind of character.
Right,
But
because they're
also,
not
hold
supposed
on,
to be seen.
yeah,
Right. Just like Luke is not Anakin, but Luke is the mirror of what Anakin should have been.
yeah, exactly.
Right. Right. So with the PT, who is your favorite character out of the movies? I know
I think,
sometimes it's hard to decide.
yeah, I think overall, I think it's got to be Qui-Gon, and
Qui-Gon.
that's
Okay.
because Qui-Gon. That's one of the reasons why I think I like Phantom Menace so much,
Mhm.
because it really does tie in to like Return of the Jedi. Like Qui-Gon was the one that he didn't follow like just the code of the Jedi. He followed the living force, just straight up the living force. And that's what we see Luke do in the post EU. So like you start with somebody like Qui-Gon, and then when he died, like everything went downhill until Luke came back and started up again. And then
Yeah.
of course, Yoda and Obi-Wan learned from Qui-Gon about selflessness, about sacrifice. So he even taught the last two Jedi that this is what you got to do to really be the quintessential Jedi. So
Yeah.
he's definitely my favorite of the PT.
Okay. So we all know how people like there's people that really love Qui-Gon too as well, but they go into this one shady area called Gray Jedi. What do you think about that? And people saying that Qui-Gon's a gray Jedi.
Well, the whole concept of gray Jedi just makes no sense, because if it's like, I mean, as well as I do, like you can't be a Jedi and use the dark side. But if they're referring to gray Jedi in the sense that he doesn't just follow the code, as I mentioned before, then I guess if you want to use that term, sure, but only if you're referring to that, because Qui-Gon never used the dark side, so that's not what he didn't ever did that. He came close in the Jedi Apprentice series. He gave into his rage, but again, that was a misstep. He wasn't being himself at that point.
Yeah, we couldn't even say Luke in Return of the Jedi when he raged out about protecting his sister. That was just a misstep.
Right, exactly. Like Luke's not a great Jedi.
Exactly. And the thing with the gray Jedi, like the one where you don't follow orders, or you don't follow the Jedi code, or you don't follow the Jedi code, the Jedi Council orders. Well, everybody at one point in their Jedi career has had disputes against their masters, the Jedi or the Jedi code at one point. So I think that still is obsolete with the term gray Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't like using it myself. But I'm like, if you're using that definition, sure. I don't like it myself, but if you're going to call Qui-Gon a great Jedi, it better be for that.
Yeah.
For that one, yeah.
All right. So Miss Smart Muse is like, coconutty caramel vanilla is in my cup. She thinks we're doing coffee chat. No joking. And then Stig's right underneath there too. She's going to trigger Stig with the flavored coffee. This is going to be interesting. And then Stig says, would you agree if I said that Qui-Gon was the one who figured out eternal life because he was the one Jedi that was utterly in light, because he followed the living force?
I wouldn't say he figured it out, because again, like in Tales of the Jedi, they could kind of do it, so it was like a lost thing. But I think that's correct in the sense that, like the Wills or whatever it was, the Wills or the midichlorians, they chose Qui-Gon to go on that path, like to relearn it and then teach Yoda and Obi-Wan.
Right.
So it's somehow correct. Yeah.
And then I've been debating this because I really don't think it's a force choke. I think it's a force shove. Like he shoved him out of the way because of the way his hand looked. So I've had debates on that. And I've seen that it's so vague on exactly what he was doing. So
yeah, even in the novelization, I think it just says like they clutched at their throats. So you could look at that as choking them. Yeah. But it also could be like he just shoved him, or maybe it's a mind trick. Maybe they think they're being choked, or it is pretty vague in both the movie and the novels. So.
Right. And the way his hand was and how he concentrated, it wasn't like a full on, like how you would traditionally see like what Vader does. It looked to me
it wasn't like a cup hand or something. It was just like
that
kind of.
Yeah, he had his hand open, and how he moved it, he kind of swatted his hand to the side a little bit. So that's something that would be a fun debate to have. He's like, move out of the way. That's how I seen it. Always. I did not see it as a force choke. I seen it as like a hand gesture, like pushing him out of the way. And and so, but that's just how I seen that.
Yeah.
So, okay, Anakin Solo still is absolutely right about Qui-Gon. So
for sure.
Stig. So he corrected himself. Sometimes spell check does that to you. And then Soul Assassin, gray Jedi are greedy. Can't be both light and dark. Come on, Darth.
Actually, yeah, that's another thing because Mace Windu's lightsaber form, Vea, how do you pronounce it? Veapad.
Yeah.
It's not using the dark side. It's like skirting the dark side, but not quite using it. It's using the fight to your advantage, basically. So that's kind of interesting. I like that they did that for Mace Windu's character.
Yeah, and then that's why they tell people who can't control themselves in the Force yet. That's what, so they don't have them train in that because they don't have full control. Because you're kind of like teetering to where you're wanting full control, and you want to overpower someone in that technique that you can go dark. So yeah, so that's something that maybe I'll do for a lower short, is just a quick description of Vapad or Vapad, whatever it's called. The fractured filter. Hello, how are you doing? He says, or she, sorry if I misgendered you. Kyle Katarn at least said that some force powers are not inherently good or evil, but how some are applied. So there's a lot. There's like, you have to go, like your energy, your emotions, all that has to go into the dark side, dark area that would make you to use it.
Because darksiders, they have like force lightning, right? But then Jedi have, I think it's called electric judgment or something. So again, it's the same kind of thing. It's just how like you kind of use it.
Yeah. And then with like electric judgment, basically what you do is that it's not intent to kill like force lightning is.
Yeah.
So so there's a difference between that. So the intent, the emotion behind it, that will determine on what you're going to use, which side you're going to go on, and all that. That's why, they say to, control your emotions.
Right. Yeah.
And find peace while you're using the force, because when you do that, then you stay within the light.
Yeah. And that's another thing that Luke's new Jedi Order was kind of built upon. Instead of burying your feelings, it was, recognize that they're there. Like all the dark side kind of put like the feelings that push towards the dark side, recognize that they're there, but reject their power over you.
Yeah. And then Soul Assassin says, Luke used the force ability called By Felicia.
By Felicia.
By Felicia. Yeah, by Felicia instead of Felicia. And then Stig says, Grey Jedi is a fan fiction term that stemmed from the video games. Yes, it did. Players created characters that focused on both light and dark side skills, and they named them Grey Jedi. And I think that's a play choice. And usually in games with Star Wars, there's a lot of play choices that when you build your character and stuff like that, that are not necessarily canon. And I don't think people understand that. So, the outcome and how you design your character is not canon, but
exactly.
The default story that you play usually is canon. And if it has a book behind it, then what the details in the books is what's canon.
Yeah, that's like a big debate with how the Force Unleashed is perceived, right? Like, the video game, Lucas said he wanted the video game developers to really, because he knew it was a video game, so just like push the level of force powers, right? But then in the book, it's a lot more streamlined and like leveled down kind of thing. Because like you probably see me on Twitter debate the whole like Star Destroyer part. Yeah. Like in the game, it's all about like using the force, but then when you get into the novel, he's like getting knocked out. The book is great, I think, of the Force Unleashed. Yeah, it shows that he exerts himself a lot, but does he die from using the Force? That's the thing. I'm sure if that was written today, he would have be on the Force. He would, he would go ghost like Luke did in the Disney trilogy. Oh man. Oh God dang it. Yeah, I know. So all right, so I'm gonna do a bit of a quiz, and this one is probably you probably know this very much, so you probably get this quiz right. If you don't, then I'll be like, what the hell? But where was the place Luke and his sister Leia born? Polis Massa. Yeah, the name. Yeah. So I was like, if you didn't get that, then I don't know what's wrong with you. I'll be questioning your knowledge after that, because that was rather an easy one. Okay, Stick Kenobi. If you use the Force versus a living creature to do harm or for personal gain, it gains you dark side points due to the greed, ego, rage being the payoff. Correct. Yeah, it's the intention, really, too. Luke's Jedi Order, deal with your shit. Well, Luke had to. He had to deal with this shit. That's right, yeah.
you know, because
and it worked. So
right. I mean, literally, he had to go. You know, basically his whole life was kind of not erased, but hidden from him, like his parents, where he originated from, all of that, to be a humble moisture farm boy, you know, on Tatooine. And Leia, she got another deal in it. I mean, she became, you know, she was still princess, if you want to say that, from Padme, that Luke and Leia were princess, even though that was it wasn't by blood, it was by election. So I don't really count it. But she still got to play into politics like her mother.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff. So she got the better end of the deal, I guess you can say.
Yeah. She was adopted into royalty.
Right. Where he was like, you know, basically on one of the worst planets you can be at.
Yeah.
To grow up on, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah. And so he had a lot of you know, stuff to deal with, and even with finding out the truth of who he was and who, you know, and his father's truth and all that, you know, even like going into Darkness trilogy when R2D2 was starting to reveal through malfunctions about who Padme was and what had happened during the time of I guess you could say Revenge of the Sith. That was pivotal moments, because Luke had forgiven his dad, right? Leia was like, he forgiven him, but I haven't yet, you know, before she forgave him. And then so when Luke seen what had happened with his father force choking his mom, he went into meditation. He was like in tears, trying to settle with the fact that he forgave him. And then he finds out this stuff. It was very emotional. And I forgot to ask you if you read that. Did you read that?
I haven't read the trilogy, but I kind of know, like, I knew that's where they figured out who their parents were and all that. So I knew that from like a couple years ago on Wikipedia when I read the.
Okay, I just went on a whole tangent about that, and you're like, oh wait, I forgot to ask if you read that.
I think at this point, even if I haven't read it, like I still know what happens, just because when I was a kid, like back in like the early 2000s, 2010s. Like I read when my class went to the library, I would just go on Wikipedia and just like read a bunch of like character articles. So
wow, back when Wikipedia was a lot more correct and accurate and not changing stuff to fit the other lore. I noticed that they've been doing that. There's like some things I could look up back then that I look up now, and it's been changed or taken off.
Yeah, I've noticed that a couple times too.
Yeah, with like especially with George Lucas stating that he built the Battle of Heroes and Revenge of the Sith with what had happened in New Hope with Obi-Wan and Vader. Like he based the conversation and he based the events in A New Hope between the two to help him build the Mustafar fights, and that he intended for the reunion in A New Hope to be the only fight. And all that. And so that was there, like right when Kenobi was being announced, and that was like strongly debated. That was there. Now that's taken down and modified.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, because I did find it there, but there's also an article I found it on too. I have to find that article. But yes, George Lucas specifically stated that, you know, Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan and Anakin or Vader's fight is based off of A New Hope one, and that there was nothing in between.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even like, just think of it like from the EU perspective. The authors never wrote a story where they find each other, because that's not what it was. Right. So now with this show, I just.
I know how you feel, and so we have Kyle here. Heel here. Oh my gosh, our OMGG. I know you guys from Twitter. Why, hello. And thank you for joining us. Let's see here. And Stig says, the apprentice girl in the Yoda novel is awesome. She is shit with the Force and the lightsaber, but chokes out the other students with her hand during their duels instead. I chuckled. It was nuts. Oh my god! So that must be the was it called Yoda? Yeah. And then Shane Nolan says, "Size matters. No difference between the stone, and the ship." Yoda. You mean probably mean not? Yeah. And then Snail Messiah, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us. All right, so let's move on here. So, what was your favorite movie scene? We probably already know for the Revenge or Return of the Jedi. So, but in the OT, what's your favorite movie scene for that? Like in the movies for the OT?
For all three movies, I think it's probably the binary sunset. In A New
Okay.
Hope. Yeah.
I think everybody has, even if it's not their most favorite scene, it's probably the second because there's so much meaning and longing, and it's just the mood, the set from John Williams, music to the expression on Luke's face to looking out and contemplating life and wanting to be something greater.
Right. Even like the blocking of that scene from like a movie perspective, like you got his home in the foreground, you got the sons in the background, and then Luke is like in between that. I'm like, that's brilliant. Like Lucas, I'm sorry, I know it's cliche to say, but Lucas is brilliant. Like we all agree on that.
Yeah. Like, yeah, exactly. And then so for the PT era, for the PT movies, not era, but for the PT movies, what is your favorite scene?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yes, there's so many magnificent ones.
I think for me, it's got to be the dinner scene in Phantom Menace the night before the race, and they're all just like around the table. They're talking about like, I didn't come here to free slaves. Anakin's like the biggest problem is that people don't help each other. Like, I think that was like probably my favorite in the entire prequel trilogy.
Oh wow! Just so seeing like Anakin carry his heart on his sleeve, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think people give that scene much credit, really. I don't think so. Like when it comes to Anakin, when it comes to Anakin and his sincerity as a young boy versus how we see him like towards the end of the prequel trilogy, when he starts getting pride and power thirst.
Yeah.
And
that's the prequels. It's a tragic like downfall of this like kid.
Yes, exactly. And let's see here. Stig says, Binary Sunset is my favorite for sure. Reminds me of my childhood when I was looking out at the ocean at night from a cliff, seeing the moon and the stars above the ocean, reflecting in it. Wow. I mean, I've seen pictures of where he lives at. Beautiful place.
Oh, yeah?
Beautiful place. And then Soul Assassin figures Luke would like the binary sunset, always looking to the future, the horizon, never on where he was and what he's doing.
You're not very wrong, Soul Assassin. You're not very wrong.
Yes, that's funny. And then let's see here. And then Kyle says, I mostly agree with your takes, but do enjoy the Clone Wars and some parts of Disney Star Wars. I understand your reservations surrounding TCW, though, considering how much of the EU is retconned. Yeah, and that's okay. You, like I said, like what you like, right? Yeah. I may compare and contrast. I may not agree with the direction they took the lore. That's fine. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. With the Clone Wars, there are some series, there are some of them I like when it comes to the clone troop scenes and stuff like that. When it steps away from the Anakin and them, and we get to see the clones and stuff, that's what I like. And I think that's what initially it was supposed to be about, was the point of view of the clones.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was what it's initially supposed to be.
Exactly. And let's see here. Whoops, it jumped on me. Thank you so much, Miss Martin Muses. And then Stick Kenobi, I bet you Disney will mess with the binary sunset one because it is offensive to non-binary.
You know what? They're probably going to rename it. I'm sure they'll rename it.
When they reimagine the OT with the cartoons, the Galaxy cartoons that they did, I think was an experiment, and I've called it. I'm like, they are playing with people's responses to it to see where they can go and what they can change. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
But at least Lucas made that video, like that live stream or whatever, where he said the 6 films are very much mine, and Disney went off with what they're doing. So he made it clear that's all we need. Exactly.
And then Snail Messiah, any scene with Carrie Fisher lying down, showing off those gorgeous legs of hers, heart. Wait, I mean, where can she is a strong and competent woman? Oh yeah, I know what you're saying. She's very competent, and yeah, I get what you're saying. TCW also retcons the movies, which is a bigger problem, but it is okay to like it too, right? And that's what I do is I point out inconsistencies and stuff. I've even done it in the EU, and I think this last coffee chat, I noticed that they took Luke's saber away from him in the Shadows of Their Fathers, and it was Luke's green lightsaber hilt instead of it being Anakin's hilt, or Anakin Skywalker's hilt. And then later on, when he got it returned, it was changed back to the proper hilt. So that there are discrepancies in everything. So I'm not saying that everything's perfect in the expanded universe, because it's so vast and big. There's going to be mistakes, right?
Yeah, but even like the mistakes I found are like pretty like minuscule stuff compared to like what Disney's done. But
right.
But yeah, there's still a few problems for sure.
Exactly. And let's see here. All right, so another quiz here. When did Luke propose to the New Republic that a new Jedi Academy needed to be started? So what year?
Oh, what year?
Yeah. And if you know the trilogy, or the novel or the book, you can go ahead and say that too. But the initial is for the year.
Yeah, I probably don't know the year, but
Or should I say standard year, since that's proper term in Star Wars?
I don't think it was the Thrawn trilogy.
No, it was after. So a little hint, it was after.
So I guess it would have been the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So the Jedi Academy trilogy, 11 ABY.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was the first book, and he went in to do his proposal to Mon Mothma about starting the order. So. And I was like, yes. I mean, that was like a pivotal moment for me as well for that, because I was like, yes, this is what you're supposed to do. Because we seen Luke contemplating starting and training new generations of Jedi when, in the Thrawn trilogy, when, she was pregnant with the twins. Leia was pregnant with the twins, but then we didn't see yet the steps for him to start the whole new order. So that was the beginning of that. That was amazing.
And even then, he gave Leia like basic training.
Right.
So.
Right. She had the basics. So basically that was the beauty of that. He had his sister, then he had his young nieces and nephews, kind of to practice on, but mainly his sister,
Yeah.
So yeah. Now let's go into more of the expanded universe. We were already into it anyways, but what do you think about the decision of the company back in 1994 to make it canon to the movies?
I thought that was a great idea, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the movies that you like take the Cantina, for example, right? Like the Tonica sisters from the Cantina, like that was the whole thing. So like it makes the universe feel bigger, especially because the OT, like compared to the prequel trilogy, like the original trilogy was very streamlined. Like these are the characters, it's a very close world. So by making all this stuff canon, yeah, it absolutely made sense. I thought it was great, like especially opposed to Star Trek, where I think, I'm not a Trekkie, but they kind of said that their books were just like non-canon, their own thing. So I think it also helped make Star Wars unique in that the third-party material was canon.
Correct. And this is for Brightest Day. I've been excited to use this.
What kept you?
What kept you? I thought that was awesome right there. I hardly use my my little video shots here to for funsies and stuff that a lot of people use. I just get into the conversations and totally forget about that, because that's just me. Kyle says, do you believe the info that George Lucas' sequel trilogy would have been about Chancellor Leia and Darth Maul are true?
Well, I mean, it came from Lucas, because Lucas was interviewed by that guy for the book. So, yeah, I'm sure he would have done it. Because I think what happened with the video game, I think I don't think he wanted to make movies anymore. So I think he took that idea. Because remember, this is like a few months ago, I shared with you that article about like Lucas went into the meeting and then he told them, the game developers, that Maul and Talon were friends or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think and again, this is just my kind of theory about what happened. he had an idea for a sequel trilogy, but he didn't want to make movies anymore. Because remember, he was going to make that live action show.
Yeah.
So I think he's like, okay, I have these ideas, but I'll give it to the licensing division, like the EU, and they'll take that and make their own story with it.
Right. And I think too, just to, piggyback off of that as well, we already knew that, he had ideas. He said he had ideas for, for Star Wars in general. So he had like 102 or 120 to 200 pages or even more of a story about Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. And his intention was basically, Anakin and his fall and his redemption. And so this is why we get him saying after Return of the Jedi, Anakin's story's over, I'm done telling the story, because that was his intention of the movies, of the storyline, right? And then so when he wanted to, his other idea of a movie was expanding on the Wills. And that's one thing that he's always talked about and has been adamant about. Like I have the James Cameron book that he's in when they talk about, Star Wars, and it's about science fiction. And he's still, this is like published in 2018, and George still talks about the Wills as being the movie that he wanted to do.
Right. In fact, he even put that in season 6 of the Clone Wars when Yoda went to that planet that was like the birthplace of the midichlorians. I think that's like he put some ideas into there as well.
Exactly. And then so when it comes to that idea about Leia already, and so this, what he said about Leia, being the leader and stuff like that, that already happened in the EU. So that kind of goes in tandem with that. She already was present. So she fulfilled, I guess you can say, if you want to say there's any type of prophecy, she when it pertains to her, she already fulfilled that. And that was already done in the EU. I think he really liked Maul. We already know that. And then he liked Talon because she basically looks like him. He has a thing for Twi'leks. That's just what I come to the conclusion of. And so
he reads the comics, remember? So he probably knows her from the Legacy comics.
Right. And during that time frame is perfect timing for him to have interest in Darth Talon, because during that time frame we started getting, the Legacy comics. I don't even think they were fully finished after buyouts. I think that.
Yeah, I think volume 2 was still going on, the Anaya Solo one.
Right. Yeah. And so, so he wanted some kind of story involving Darth Maul and her. And I think that because he really didn't want to, like you said, he really didn't want to do any more movies or spending more time on that he just went ahead and just said, okay, like you said, gave it to the licensing department, the gaming department, and was like, let's do something with this idea. I like this idea. Probably will most likely never, ever make a movie out of this. So let's turn it into a game where someone can make their own storyline with it.
Yeah. And then in that article I was talking about before, the game developers, they reminded him like, Darth Maul and Darth Talon existed at different times. So then he said, well, then, okay, this can be a descendant of Darth Maul or a clone of Darth Maul, so that it would line up with the Legacy comics. So there's, contradictions.
Right. And you think that people like say, oh, well, George is going to contradict the EU because he was going to make that movie because Darth Talon was never, in the same timeline, blah, 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 or the era. Yeah. And then, but I'm like, well, first of all, go ahead and look at what had happened with the development of the game. They set him straight on continuity. So just imagine if he would have made the movie, just we're going into what ifs right now. I'm pretty sure that his story group, if you want to call them that, would say, hey, this doesn't work. And stuff like that. And I think pretty sure he probably would have said, okay, just like he said with the game.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And that's just what ifs. I mean, we're just going into what if scenarios and stuff. So, all right. So let's move on here. So who is your favorite EU character and why?
Probably Mara Jade, just because like her, like even just in the Thrawn trilogy, like her whole story in the EU, but from like Heir to the Empire to the end of The Last Command, like she wanted to kill Luke Skywalker and then she had to like begrudgingly go on the mission with him. And then she cathartically killed his clone. So then she stopped hearing the Emperor's voice. And then from then on, they had like this rocky relationship. And then she was really just like a badass smuggler and Jedi in her own right. And then she became a full Jedi, Luke's wife, mother to Ben. And I think she just like all the way through, brilliantly written.
Yeah.
Like Timothy Zahn wrote her, and then the Carillion trilogy, and then even in the Jedi Academy trilogy, which she wasn't in for a whole lot. The Legacy of the Force books, which she dies halfway through, but and like when she dies, like that was, and this is a good thing. This isn't a criticism, but like that was emotionally taxing. I was like, oh my heart.
Open Airlock is reading that one right now, so I can't wait to hear what he has to say about that. It was just like, and I say this anyways, I shouldn't have, because if you have not read it, then what are you waiting on? But just like when Chewie died in Vector Prime.
Oh, I cried reading that. I swear to God, I cried reading that.
Yeah. And then when Anakin Solo died in Star by Star, and like in the New Jedi Order, like every single book has a death.
Yeah, exactly.
Just about has a death.
And that's kind of what I liked about it. It's like, I think Lucas said, yeah, don't kill off Luke, but like every other character is like killable now. So it's like, oh,
yeah, you're like,
serious now.
Yeah, it's getting real. It's getting real. So with Mara, what is your favorite moment of hers?
I think it's in Vision of the Future, when they're at the Hand of Thrawn, the place, the base,
the fortress. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she has to send her ship, the Jade's fired, like to destroy the base, and like that was her last like thing that was really hers. Like that was like the last part of her, well, not the last part, like part of her soul, kind of. And then when she wanted, like, she told Luke, like, can we just have like a quiet moment here? Like, and she was like really like quietly venting. I'm like, that was amazing. Like that was such a emotional moment for that character. Right,
because she never had the opportunity to do that. Because she even told Luke that how she likes how he's so emotionally open, and she can't do that. Yeah. And and then I'm not saying I'm shocked by what you thought was very, like a very favorite moment of hers, because I get it, because we see her, she is this badass, she's very sarcastic and snarky, quick-witted, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And and stuff, and so we don't hardly see her fully express emotions. So when something like of her past that she has to get rid of, that she was so attached with, and her ship was the wave that she can escape.
Yeah, exactly.
And she did that. And so when she makes that sacrifice to become a Jedi, and that's what that was, if no one caught to that, she was letting go of her chance to escape and to face reality, face her future.
That's right. And then she and Luke got married shortly after that.
And what do you think about his proposal to her?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty well done.
Yeah. And then other Jedi, do you have any other favorite Jedi or other favorite characters outside, like some other ones that, kind of like sparked your interest or caught your eye?
I think Quinlan Voss really caught my eye when I read him.
Okay.
Like this like dark kind of tortured guy. Like he wanted to, like when he was going in as Dooku's apprentice, like pretended to be his apprentice, and then he was like losing himself, and then Aayla Secura, like his former apprentice, was like his anchor, and I'm like, he's like this really like tortured character, but like he's just, I think it was brilliant.
Yeah. What was your favorite moment for him?
Favorite moment for him, I think it was what was it? It was in the comics. He was I think like he was dueling Aayla Secura, former apprentice, and then like he realized what he was doing, and then like as his former apprentice, she had to bring him back, and like just that connection as master and apprentice they had. I thought like that bringing him back, because like they weren't lovers, because he had his own.
Yeah.
He had like his own wife later on.
Was it Annalene, or not Annalene, and our what was it? Sorry, I forgot her name. It's not Annalene, because that's from Kenobi. Yeah, I know who you're talking about though. I have her image in my head. Yeah. And then what's so neat about Quinlan is that he was created off of a character that was in the Phantom Menace, right?
That's right. He was just a background character.
Right. And then someone took that image and created Quinlan Voss, but then you get into Revenge of the Sith, and they mention Quinlan and where he's at.
Yeah, because again, Lucas read the comics and he really liked that character. In fact, there was a a deleted scene of Revenge of the Sith where Quinlan Vos was at Kashyyyk, and then it would have shown him dying from Order 66, or I think he escaped. But
yeah,
yeah, it was cool.
escaped.
It was cool that
Yeah.
Lucas included him in that.
Yeah, exactly. He escaped, but he was severely battered and stuff, and he got to see his son.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that. And I don't like the direction they took him afterwards in the Disney trilogy. Him and Asajj Ventress, I don't like that at all.
Oh yeah, no, I thought that, like, so I actually read the book as part of, like, remember I did that Clone Wars rewatch.
Okay.
Well, I actually read the book just to sort of do it. I'm like, yeah, it felt really forced. I didn't buy it at all.
I researched it. I didn't read it. I researched it, and I'm like, no, thank you. I like his character within the original lore. I like the original intention of his character. I like the original intention of Asajj Ventress as well. I don't really care for her in the Clone Wars either. So, and his too. I don't. I think that's where they took a dump on the characters.
Yeah, I don't know why they turned him into the dude in that show.
Dude. Yeah, like a surfer dude attitude was like part of Star Wars or something.
like Lucas liked the character, so why did they change it? If George Lucas liked him as he was, why change it?
Exactly.
He was actually a little bit better in the book Dark Disciple, but he was kind of just like a cliche in that book. He wasn't like the dude, but he was still just there. It was pretty bland.
Wow. I mean, I can't imagine. So Anakin Solo says, what would have happened at the end of the Dark Empire comics? Anakin's Force Ghost had killed Palpatine once and for all. So you're going into what if. So what Force Ghosts in the original lore really don't interfere like that. You know, there may be one or two instances where a Force Ghost has shoved someone out of harm's way, but that's it.
Or I think it was Splinter of the Mind's Eye, when Obi-Wan sort of intervened. He sort of worked through Luke when he fought Vader in that book.
Yeah, and that one too, I was like, but that one is kind of what you say quasi-canon, because that was a what if kind of scenario if, Star Wars wasn't a hit.
Yeah, so like that was written before Empire Strikes Back. So you're right, that's like a weird almost what if scenario. Yeah,
so Empire Strikes Back kind of retcons that.
Yeah.
For what?
Actually, it's interesting though, because Obi-Wan has the line in Empire Strikes Back where he says, "I cannot interfere," and I'm like, then later on reading Splinter of the Mind's Eye, I'm like, I wonder if that's what he was referring to. If Lucas remembered that from Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and that's what he's referring to.
Okay, that's an interesting take on that one. Okay, and then Soul Assassin says, "Geez, so many books I have to read. I spent too much time in the Old Republic. The Old Republic is good as well. And in fact, for a literature review, we are going to get into our announcement now. We're getting into Deceived. So that's going to be a fun read for all those who love the Old Republic. I haven't explored too much about that or through that. I never really I'm going to say I never got into gaming because I was a gamer when I was younger, but I never got into the KOTOR game just yet.
Yeah, I've never played the online game, the Old Republic game, but I do have this Old Republic encyclopedia.
Ooh, look at that! It's gorgeous.
So that's kind of my my cheat sheet for that
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Go to stuff. Yeah, and then Soul Assassin says, "Question: Can a proton pack and ghost trap work in on a Force spirit?" Okay, yes. So yes.
You didn't hear that from me though.
Did you see that? And I did a video, and it's probably like a year ago, maybe. But basically, one of the comics, and I think it's a Vader comic. I'm not too for sure now. I have to go back and look at the video. That they can capture Force ghosts.
I think I did hear about that.
Yeah, and so I did that, and so when I made the thumbnail for the video cover, I had Vader holding, because he's holding his hand out, and as I put a bottle, like a little corked bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid. It's like first of all, I know that they're trying to be distinctly different than probably than what George and his company made before the buyout, right? But it seems like they're taking everything that was good and said, okay, well, let's do the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think that is what they're doing.
Let's see here. And then
I mean the whole thing about like the whole Mandalorian leading into the like their version of Heir to the Empire. It's like, I'm sure they're gonna do Heir to the Empire, and it's gonna be terrible.
Mm-hmm. God, I hope not. But even if they do, it's not a like a nod to us EU fans. It's basically a slap in the face.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
People don't realize it. Are we supposed to be like beggars on the corner? That's how they're treating us. We're beggars on the corner. And they're like, oh, here's a scrap. You should be happy now. Shut up.
Oh, God, I hate that. Yeah.
So
like every time they do that, they're like, oh, look, they recanonized Revan because he was like on a pillar in the Rise of Skywalker in the background, or Rise of Palpatine, sorry. And I'm like, that doesn't do anything for me. I don't care.
Yeah, and
that's not Revan. That's Disney's version of Revan.
Yeah, it's just a look-alike. The story is not the same, and in fact, their timeline, their universe is not even 25,000 years old.
That's right. Yeah.
So that doesn't fit.
That actually, I think that was something 25,000 years. That was something I think Lucas himself came up with. So once again, not only are they like dissing the EU, they're going against Lucas's lore. So
exactly. And then Kyle Hill says, Shakti was one of my favorite Jedi as a kid. Such an amazing design. She is amazing. And in fact, I favor her more than I do Ahsoka.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I do like Ahsoka, but I do like Shakti more.
Yeah. I never really cared for her. I think that, that idea of her, I think that was a mistake. Honestly, I do. And so I'll probably make, Ahsoka fans go, oh my God, no, you didn't. That's okay. It's my opinion. It still happened. You still got her. Chill.
Exactly.
Just chill. All right. Blame Filoni. All right. So let's move on here. So let's see here. What do you think about Mara Jade's backstory trained as Emperor's hand?
I thought that was interesting because like the Emperor's hands were trained by the Emperor, but they weren't Inquisitors and they weren't Sith. So I thought that was really cool. She was like because Ventress was like a Sith assassin, and whereas Mara was just like a normal assassin. So I thought that was really interesting that the Emperor, who is so, ingrained in the dark side, would actually train these Force users just like not normally, but like in the Force, but not have them become Sith Lords. I thought that was actually really cool because she's almost like a ninja in a way, like when she's the Emperor's hand.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I thought that was awesome.
And even Luke points out to her, and I think it might be the Hand of Thrawn duology, that she was never really dark.
Yeah, that's right.
And she never really, her intentions were pure. Like she thought she was doing good.
Yeah, exactly.
That she was that naive because she didn't know nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was an interesting twist on that.
Yeah, and it also kind of makes her into like sort of a tragic character too, because like, the whole thing of like, oh, I was trying to kill you, but it was like just following orders and I couldn't really help it. And so I like that. I like it added layers to the character. Exactly.
So I have another quiz question for you. So who were Mara Jade's masters? And this goes on to all her masters.
Well, Palpatine for sure. I'm trying to remember if Lumia at one point was her master. No, I don't think so.
No.
Luke was her master at one point.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
She has like a funny quote about that too.
I don't think I remember the other ones.
All right, so she had 3: Sidious, Luke, and Kyle Katarn.
Oh, that's right. Kyle was her. Yeah, okay, now I remember that.
Yeah, so Kyle Katarn. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because Kyle and Mara Jade are basically the classical EU characters. Like they're the ones that are solely the EU. We could kind of say that about Quinlan Voss, but the birth of his image and stuff comes from the movies. However, we see his character played out as in the EU. Wedge is always been a movie character, but his story basically is in the EU. So I
consider Wedge more of an EU character. Like I know he was introduced in the movies, but I consider him more of an EU character.
Right. Yeah, because we get the glimpses. We know nothing of him other than that, his leadership in the OT, right?
Right.
But we don't get nothing of him until the EU, and we get the whole story, how he started, where he came from, and all of that in the EU. So you respectively, yes, like him and Quinlan, their story is basically in the EU. So you can
Right.
roughly say that as well. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting, with, looking at the classical EU characters, the most pivotal ones are Kyle Katarn and Mara. So what'd you think about Kyle Katarn?
Funnily enough, I don't think I'm that well versed in Kyle Katarn because I actually never played the Jedi Academy games.
Okay.
But I do like the idea of like, and again, this is something that Disney also copied. The stormtrooper going like becoming a Jedi in Luke's era.
Mm-hmm.
Like we hadn't really seen that before, so I thought that was pretty well done too.
Yeah, exactly. And like his I didn't play much of, like, I have the video game and I got into it a little bit, but I haven't fully, have been immersed into the video games of Kyle. But I do have the novellas, the trilogy, Dark Force trilogy novellas and stuff. And I've been doing and put slowly, I mean, like snailish slow, putting together Dark Empire versus Rogue One, compare and contrast. And there is so much that when you look at Rogue One, like even Scarif is a knockoff to, I think it's called Topinwa, where
Toprawa, I think.
Toprawa, whatever. But where she, received the plans through, through transmission. And so there's a lot of like even the base of Scarif is similar to the base of on that planet and stuff like that. It's just eerie when you look into all of that and you research all of that.
Right, because what wasn't the Tantive 4 also above Toprawa during the battle?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's what happened. I didn't see Rogue One. I just know that's what happened. But like, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the whole name thing, Jan Ors and Jyn Erso. So
yeah, it's kind of like a little bit like you can kind of see like letters switched around a little bit, and all that. Yeah, and so that's it's like eerie to see the differences and thinking. I think like even with you probably, like thinking to myself, I'm like, they might as well just left the story original.
Exactly. Like I don't understand. I didn't understand the point of like decanonizing it and then we're doing this story, and not only are we doing the story, but we're doing the Dark Forces version of it just with a different name and everything. I didn't like what's the point then?
Yeah, exactly. There was the point is that, and that it is always is that they want to do their own story. But the thing is,
even then, it's like, do they really want to do their own story? Because they're just copying everything that came before now.
Right. They that's the point I've always made is like, okay, so if you really want creative freedom, then why are you copying?
Yeah,
why
exactly.
don't you just make a whole, you have a clean slate now, other than George's movies, you have a clean slate. Just go elsewhere. But the thing is, when they went elsewhere, they did it bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And they got backlash. And so part of that, I think, from the backlash with their direction of like the main heroes, they start, okay, well, we'll bring in Thrawn and we'll bring in this character. Well, Thrawn was kind of before then, but still, we'll bring in these EU characters because then, again, we'll throw them a bones to appease them. We got Luke in Mandalorian because, let's appease him again, dangle the keys kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. The jingling of the keys.
Right. And so Miss Martin Muses, thank you so much for the super sticker, the 99 cents. And it's a rose. Thank you so much, Darlene. Yes. And then so let's move on from there. What did you think of her mental tie? Basically, that was the last command by Palpatine regarding Luke. You must kill Luke Skywalker.
I thought, again, it kind of made her a tragic character because she's like, she hears his voice in her head. She hears his voice in her head. And it's like, for the past, 5 years, she's just been hearing that voice. And it's like, and then now that like Luke is with her, like the real Luke, she can't kill him. So then the fact that she has to kill the Luke clone, because again, she goes on her journey from heir to the last command. Yeah. So the fact that she gets to kill this clone, but it's not really Luke, then the voice stops and it's like, well, good, go F yourself, Palpatine.
Right.
Like, I think it added like real like nuance to the character that she was tortured by her former master.
I know. Just imagine if we would got more stories about that. Like, you know, it had to have been rough because she trained with Imperial Guards, right? So she trained with the elite. There had to be some instances where she did have some sort of like torture training from Palpatine himself. You know, if we seen how Darth Bane handled, you know, his apprentice at some point.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I don't think that Palpatine showed her mercy. That's why she was so submissive to him. Yeah, so that's how I see that. So that would have been, you know, so that last command, you know, like when she first felt Palpatine die. Did you read the comics? Her comics, the hand, the Emperor's Hand.
Yeah, Emperor's Hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she felt the Emperor died, and then she felt so out of place.
Yeah, it's almost like she felt alone, sort of like in some weird way. He became the Emperor, sort of became this twisted, almost father figure for her. Like when she felt alone, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And Kyle Hill says, do we know anything about Ben Skywalker's family on Mara's side? No, and we're going to get into that. So she basically was taken at a very young age. In fact, here's another quiz for you since I'm on the subject. When was Mara Jade born? Like what standard year? If you can recall or remember, if you've ever looked it up.
I do remember looking it up a while ago. I know it was before Revenge of the Sith. I know that. Yeah, I don't know the exact year, but I think it was before then.
It's dated at 17 BBY.
Oh, so that was 2 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so she's a little bit younger than Luke. She's like 2 years younger than Luke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was before.
I always thought that she was a bit older than Luke because her maturity seems that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like being under Palpatine's thumb, she was very like astute and everything.
Right. But she's actually younger than him, and so that was you know interesting to learn and find out when I was doing my research about her a while back. But her family, all she remembers is just feelings. Like she remembers when Palpatine came and got her, and that was a time when they were purging and looking for Jedi, and so they found her, and so she was one of the very few that were taken in.
Right.
Instead of killed. And so she was taken in. And so she remembers her family reluctantly allowing her to go. And then I think she remembers some kind of toy she had that she broke or something. But that's all that she recalls from her past.
I think I remember the toy one. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all she remembers from the past. So there's no planet origin. In fact, the painting series, and I'll go ahead and announce it now again for those coming in. But the painting series I'm doing, and this is one of them, and is I'm doing the characters, but I'm also doing the planets that they're either from, like born from, or that they called as their home. And so the one of the paintings I have of Mara Jade that I already did, and I still have a few things to finish on it, is that I have her holding the Skywalker saber that Luke gave her. And then we have like it's all misty in the background, and then we have the Coruscant skyline in the back because we didn't know where she came from, and Coruscant Imperial City was always her home.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So that's what I did. And so with this is Son of Kifu, and starting in November to January, any channel members, and this includes those who become a channel member during that time and attend a stream. Any channel members that come and support the live stream during that time frame will have their names entered for a chance to win a copy of this painting. Miss Martin Muse is the one that won the last one, and she should be receiving it, or I haven't heard she received it yet, but she should be receiving it here pretty quick. So if she didn't do it today, then tomorrow I'm guessing she'll get it. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, so there are some incentives for you guys for supporting my channel, allowing it to grow, and supporting Star Wars at its finest. So there we go. And then Anakin Solo. I think what's wrong with Ahsoka is the fact that she's Anakin's apprentice. If she had been another Master's Padawan and had the same personality as we already know, no one would have said anything. You might have a point there.
I agree with that. I think she should have been Plo Koon's apprentice. Like a lot of people have said that. And then like because think about like how Anakin was knighted, like he was knighted because like the Clone Wars were very like pressing time, so they needed more knights. So Anakin was knighted in a very like unique way. So I think if Plo Koon sent his apprentice to like shadow Anakin and Obi-Wan, then like they still could have formed a bond. They still could have had her entire arc. But yeah, him having an apprentice, like that doesn't jive with the movie, specifically like Revenge of the Sith. So
and it doesn't really jive with his character either, because you know, he cares about everybody he's close with. We see that like even the Battle of Jabim when he thought he lost Obi-Wan, right? And even the outcome of the Jabim people, he cared, but he still followed the orders. But because he cared and he wore his heart on his sleeve, and he didn't want to leave. And you know, and so if you were following Long Coffee Chat, we got Luke's arc with Jabim, and we understand, you know, about what had happened, that, you know, Anakin really didn't want to leave, and you know, but what had happened back then and the misperceptions of what had happened made the Skywalker name tainted for a while until Luke went there and redeemed it. And very good story arc. So what I'm getting at is that yeah, you're right, it doesn't jive with the movies, because then that's another person that he would absolutely care about and want to do something about the situation for.
Yeah, like in season 7 of the Clone Wars, it's like, okay, so she's not back into the Order, but she like Anakin literally saw her like right before she went to Mandalore. So it's like, okay, so she's alive during Revenge of the Sith when Anakin's still a Jedi and everything. He knows like that she's there. They talk, they saw each other. You would think in Revenge of the Sith there'd be one scene of like Anakin trying to get away and like contacting Ahsoka on the comm or something.
Right.
But like there's nothing. And then when Padme dies, or sorry, not when she dies, when he becomes Vader, it's like it's all about Padme. It's like, well, wouldn't he have like tried to talk to, like, what about Ahsoka or something like that? Or when Palpatine said every single Jedi, including your friend Obi-Wan Kenobi, is now an enemy of the Republic, don't you think he would have mentioned Ahsoka's name there, even though she's not technically a Jedi? But it just didn't jive with me.
She's still a threat because she still had some sort of training, right? She's not a Jedi. She still had some sort of training. She still has some sort of influence that could possibly bring back the Jedi, because they killed non-Jedi Force users too on the during the purge.
And then even in season 7, they actually, the clones on her ship turned against her. So obviously she was part of like the Order or whatever.
Right.
Order 66. So again,
that didn't make sense whatsoever, though. The Order 66 in Disney Star Wars, with her, with the chip, all of that, it was like,
yeah, I hated the chip part. That was so bad.
Yeah, that's like, oh my god, it's like
funny,
go
ahead.
No, go ahead. You're the guest.
So, I was watching because like I don't watch the show, but Raging Rhino was doing like Bad Batch reviews, and from what I gather from that show, which is like a direct sequel to the Clone Wars, like something of if I was watching the clips that he was showing correctly, it was like some of the chips didn't work, so some of them were useless, some of them like just didn't go off, and it's like, then what was the point of the chip then?
Right.
It just
and you would think that they would have the malfunction during the Clone Wars when they're out there getting commands and stuff like that, right? Because they're supposed to control them and make them docile and more, well, not docile, like you know, like lethargic or whatever, but be more responsive to commands and stuff like that, right? I mean, that was the whole state of the chip, was to control them.
And I've heard arguments that like the chip makes the clones victims, but I'm like, they were already victims before because they were loyal to the Chancellor to such that degree that they did form real bonds with their Jedi general counterparts, but it was their loyalty, like they're not built in like a chip, like just trained their loyalty to the Chancellor and the Republic, that they're like, okay, you're my friend, but you know, orders come in, I got to kill you.
Right.
So I think it's actually way more tragic without the chips, and they just have to kill their friends, like their brothers in arms, kind of thing.
Yeah, because they're altered to the state where, you know, they know no other reason other than to, you know, that direct command. And that's even said in Attack of the Clones. She never, Tonween or whoever it was, never said that they put a chip She said that
Right.
they altered them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know the chip was supposed to be secret from the Jedi, but she said like, or I think it was Lama Su said
Yeah, Lama Su,
like
yeah.
we've engineered them to be totally obedient and like whatever. So
Yeah.
I
I mean,
felt the
so if
chip
you're
was
gonna
just so unnecessary.
yeah, if you're gonna say to the Jedi, we engineer them to be obedient, that's the same direction the chip was supposed to be for, right?
Yeah,
So did it make no sense to say, oh, we're hiding the chip, even though we said this and this and this? The chip still does the same thing. It makes no sense.
yeah. And then like what you were saying before, like how no other clone had a malfunction with the chip, and then I think the one that did in the Clone Wars, like it was like during a battle and he got hit in the head, and I'm like, that was it? Like no other clone before that?
Mhm.
It's just it wasn't well done.
No, not it wasn't planned at all. Like it's like, okay, so we give you know, a lot of criticism to Ryan Johnson and JJ for not planning this the sequel trilogy out. That could be given to, you know, Filoni too, when George, you know,
Oh
stood
yeah.
back and gave him free control over the show.
So
So
that's my biggest problem with Filoni. Like I think at his core, he's a guy who does get Star Wars, but his stories and his continuity need a lot of work.
right. And then he excuses away, well, George never, you know, said that continuity is for wimps or whatever. But then we have evidence.
I doubt George ever said that. That doesn't make any sense for him to say that.
And I think if it was said as a joke, like as
Yeah,
sarcasm
exactly.
or whatever. And
Yeah.
and he took it literally because he knows that he's screwing up. I think that's
Yeah.
all the reason why he said that, because he knows he's screwing up. He screwed
Mhm.
up the lore in the original Star Wars, and he's doing a lot of damage right now when it comes to the new lore. And you know, a lot of people document that. They're like, wait a minute, this, and this. And then like you can even hear Stig go off on his rants about, you know, continuity and stuff like that. And when it comes to like some of the shows that Filoni does. And you know, I don't know if you've seen that short video that I did, but basically Timothy Zahn stated that Disney and Filoni is not working with him or to even get feedback on Theron's character when it comes to like Ahsoka series and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was the same thing on Rebels. Like he had no input on the Rebels, and don't get me wrong, I don't expect them to like talk to Timothy Zahn about everything they do, but like, you know, just keep them in the loop, like for some stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know, like if you have questions, okay, so how would you imagine blah blah blah? That's and I know, and I have to look it up again, but I thought I've seen somewhere that Thrawn or Zahn said that they didn't even ask or they didn't tell him that they were killing off Mara Jade. You
Yeah,
know.
no, they didn't tell him that, and he was a little peeved about that, but
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and I forgot to put that in the video. I was like, oh crap, I meant to put that in the video. But the thing is, it's like, okay, so when usually from what I've heard about the authors in the past, and it's not always because we know Karen Travis's story too, but this also goes with Filoni and stuff as well. But usually the authors did talk to each other.
oh yeah, for sure.
More than likely they talked with each other, or if they didn't have a chance to, it's already been documented in, you know, like some of the material, the continuity material that, you know, that they kept, or, you know, then they have the Western Games material to look back on and stuff like that. So they had a plethora of information in front of them to help
Yeah, not to
continuity.
mention, I think Howard Rothman, who was the head of licensing, I think he was sort of like the liaison between people. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was one part of his job. So like they had him to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's funny that like after Disney bought it, they had made a story group, but they don't do anything. It's just like, oh, canon is fluid. Do whatever whatever you want is canon. I'm like
Yeah.
that failed in 2 years. That story group failed in 2 years.
Right. And it just makes me wonder about Leland Shee. Like, is he just there as a mascot?
I feel like he is. Like I feel like he has no input because he I think he is on the story group, but
Mm-hmm. He is.
I mean like none of them do anything. So
Yeah.
plus, I think Pablo Hidalgo is now I think head of the story group. So
Oh,
like
really? Because people are saying that he
yeah.
doesn't even work for Lucasfilm anymore, Disney Lucasfilm.
Oh
That's
no.
the rumors.
Well, I guess when he did work for them, like I guess before, if he doesn't work for them now, I think he was the last head of the story group. But
Okay.
like under him, it's like he doesn't care about Star Wars. Like he knows about it, but he doesn't care about it. So
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Let's go ahead and check the chats here. OG, and this is from Robert. What would be your theory regarding Mara's family? About like where they were from and stuff. That is such a I would not know where to begin. If I had an inkling of like what system or planet they came from, or was she found on Coruscant, or was she found outwardly, like towards the outer rim? That there's a lot that I can go with on that. What do you think? Did you have a theory with that?
I always thought that her family was probably from the core.
Okay.
Like, I feel like if Palpatine found like a child like that, it would probably be in one of the core worlds. But as far as like who her family was, yeah, I don't know who she would be. Or actually, an interesting theory was Mara Jade her original name, or was that just like a name the Emperor named her?
Right. We don't know. He could have totally given her a whole different name. Like Jade. Do you really think that's her last name?
Exactly. Like the Jade is a gem.
Yeah. Do you think that he just renamed her so that she has no ties back to her family whatsoever? Like she can't find it. Like we're erasing her whole history.
Yeah, and knowing the sadistic guy that he was, I mean, it's a total possibility.
Right. So we can probably contemplate all this until we're blue in the face or whatever, because it's intriguing. And that's one thing that I wish that we could have got. But then in a sense, I like the mystery of Mara Jade too, her past.
Yeah.
Just like Yoda, he was a mystery, and George intentionally wanted his species to be a mystery.
That's right. Yeah. Apparently now they're changing that, but
yeah,
back then it was great.
Yeah, exactly. And then Soul Assassin says it's gonna be easy when OG paints Leia. No background since her planet was blown. No, I will do Alderaan before it blew up.
That was brutal, Soul Assassin.
I know. Look at him. He's got that crying laugh face on there. Or, you could have said, oh, it could be like fire. She could be fire and have like the explosion behind her. Oh my gosh. And so let's go into my painting real quick. So I do have a vision for like, I was going to put Anakin and Luke together. And what I was going to do is instead of like Tatooine in the background, I was going to do the twin sons somehow. Because, we have the son and the father, the son following in what the father's footsteps were supposed to be. And then the twin sons. But then again, I know the history of the twin sons. So I really want to do that. So we'll see. So yeah. So there is a story from the Tusken Raiders about the twin sons. So yeah. Yeah. So it's a fun one. Have you read the Kenobi novel?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Robert says Anakin having another friend he could vent with invalidates the pressure he was in during Revenge of the Sith. That's a good point. That's a good point. Even before then, because we know that, like in Attack of the Clones, that he had the vision of his mother dying. He goes to investigate, and stuff, and then she dies in his hands. And then we have the Clone Wars. And so and he has Obi-Wan, and this kind of takes away from Obi-Wan and his friendship that they had and their bond, because isn't Obi-Wan, even though he didn't tell a lot to Obi-Wan, like, because there's some things that he did that he kept hidden, that's like even Padme, even though Obi-Wan suspected, but still that still takes away from that bond between him and his master. And then also it takes away from him holding all this in and making him turn, and Palpatine twisting and turning him. So that's another reason why I feel that, Ahsoka was a bad mistake. Yeah, let's see here. And then Soul Assassin says the chip is stupid as hell. What's wrong with the clones being trained to follow orders without question? Yep, you got a point there. I think that, like I said, I've always thought that without the chip, it was more tragic than anything else. Yeah. And then Kyle says, I think I remember Rex saying that Sidious specifically targeted Ahsoka under the command of Order 66.
I never heard that.
I haven't either. And I haven't heard anybody else say that either. All I know is that he did the order, and that because she carried saber, they seen her as a Jedi and they went to go attack her. So this is the thing. They still went after her. because she had a saber. So what about Anakin then when he was Vader? Why did they go after him?
Yeah, exactly. Like, actually, I never thought about that either. That's true.
Yeah. So they went after her. She's not a Jedi anymore, but Anakin's not a Jedi anymore either. Well, look at that. And then he's done. He's gone. No, I'm joking. And he's like, that's it. I'm done. But I'm done with Star Wars too. Damn it. That's the breaking point. No. And but the thing is, like, Anakin's not a Jedi either, but he still carries a saber. So why didn't they turn on him?
Right, exactly. Like that doesn't make sense either. So
And then so hello, Keck 44.
What kept you?
I like that one. I think I'm going to keep doing that when people come in. Yeah. And so that's another good thing right there as well. Let's see here. Soul Assassin, what if Mara Jade was actually Mara Amidala? Cue the space banjo.
that's Mara Naberry. That was her original name.
Mara Naberry. Oh my God. So they couldn't have Leia and Luke. So then they're going to have Luke and the cousins. No. Oh my God. Now we're getting into like the Twilight Zone of Star Wars here. I agree, Miss Martin Muses. And he's laughing right there. So, okay. So let's go on here. Before Luke and Mara's union, what did you think of her working with Lando and the suggestion of a fling? If you remember that. Remember there's hint that Mara and Lando, when they worked together, that there was some sort of fling, or do you recall?
I never thought there was like a thing between them, but I think them working together, I think that makes, because again, she was like a smuggler, right? She was like like mainly a smuggler, and then Lando has all these connections. But of course, Lando always thought there was a connection because he's like that suave ladies man. So I thought that was always funny. I think it was a Jedi Academy trilogy when he would always like put the moves on Mara, and then she just rejected him. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was, confirmed, like they never had anything done. I think that was in the Corellian trilogy that she confirmed, and I could be wrong. It could be somewhere, but it's around that timeline where she confirmed that they were never together.
Yeah, I think that was
that too. Yeah, and I think she did confirm that too again in actually no, it was through Zahn, because Zahn did not like the fact that they suggested that Lando and Mara had a fling.
really?
He was upset about that. And so he went ahead and had Mara say like that was never a fling, that I was, we were acting out because we wanted people to think that way.
Oh.
Some circumstances, I forgot what the circumstances were, but
that was like in I think it was, I forget if it was Jedi Academy or The Hand of Thrawn, where Mara says she doubts if Dark Empire was really Palpatine because Zahn didn't like that either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because during the time with Dark Empire and the Thrawn trilogy coming out, there was a tiff behind that, even though George, loved both of the stories and really loved the fact that Palpatine came back as a clone. So
that was his idea, because originally they wanted some guy in Darth Vader's armor to like masquerade as Vader. But then Lucas said, no, don't do that. You can have the Emperor be cloned. So
exactly. And then Kyle says, to be fair, I think the Clone Wars season 7 did a good job at portraying Ahsoka as as distant from Anakin, which kind of helped with the feeling of loneliness. That's just my opinion anyways. But she kind of was still involved because he gave her half of his army.
Yeah, I disagree. Yeah, I agree with you. I disagree with Kyle here, because in the Siege of Mandalore episode, he meets with her. So it's not like before when she was on her own before she came back. So they actually established they met again. He gave her the lightsabers back, some of the 501st. So yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I think I
think that if she totally just would have disappeared, that would have been fine, because initially she was supposed to have been killed off, right? But if she would have just totally disappeared and we didn't see her until Rebels, which I still think is a mistake that she was even survived after Order 66.
Yeah, me too.
That would have made a lot more sense, because then he wouldn't have seen her. He would have known that she was gone, kind of deal, and it had more impact even for Rebels. And again, Filoni doesn't plan his stuff out very well.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. And then Robert says maybe Filoni did the chip so his pet character wouldn't really be evil. So he would justify them somehow. We know he loves playing favorites. Oh yeah, Ahsoka is definitely his favorite.
Actually, I always joke that like Filoni has a bigger attachment problem than Anakin had because he can't let Ahsoka go.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, you are right on that. Robert, Kyle, Kyle, they put in. Oh, that's response to Kyle. So let's go ahead and go here. Oh no, I'll correct myself. Jesse says to Rex after Rex says that Ahsoka isn't a Jedi. Sir, you said yourself that we're under special orders from Darth Sidious to execute Ahsoka Tano. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that line either.
I'm gonna have to go back and research that one because, yeah. But why would seriously? He already has Anakin, so why would he even focus on her?
Yeah, exactly. Like
because she never was a factor in Anakin not turning.
Yeah, exactly. The two big players were obviously Padme and Obi-Wan. So
yeah, I think that was just a way to shoehorn her in being another pivotal player, which doesn't make sense still.
Yeah, because even in the show, she was never like Palpatine knew who she was, but he was never like she was never a pivotal player.
Correct. And then Kyle says Sidious wouldn't have ordered the clones to execute Anakin, hence why they didn't attack him. The thing is, the chip is specifically Jedi.
Yeah.
It's not different orders from Order 66. We even see in the movies, execute Order 66. That means the Jedi. So that still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to the chip and stuff. And then now if there is no chip, then that would make a little bit more sense because then they're obeying an order other than following a command from a chip. So, all right. And then Mara must be the only woman to ever turn down Mr. Colt 45.
Yo, Soul, you're on fire today.
He is. But I like it because then it gives it gives her own character personality and stuff like that because
that's right. Yeah.
But I get what you're saying with that. I get what you're saying. And then so my sources told me that Filoni likes to play with his Ahsoka and Filoni figures when nobody's around. Again, sources.
oh, sources. Oh, everybody's favorite word around here. Sources.
Yeah, sources. Yeah, exactly. And
did you guys hear that Kennedy's out again?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that recently?
Oh yeah. Oh no. Okay, so now it's being spun. And we'll just say it here right now. These sources that told these certain people that, she will probably most likely or has her contract extended for a year. So, whatever she's working on, by the time that a year is up, they can let her go.
Yeah.
So, they just moved the goalpost back further. That's all it did. And mind you, she's going to eventually retire. She's up in age, right? But exactly. I really think it's on her own term, and that I think they're really pleased with her because Chapek even said that they're pleased with her.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, where these I don't know why people buy into this rumor mill because it's these same people, and this is true. She is the most powerful woman in Hollywood, so you're not going to get rid of her by firing her. So.
Exactly. And then Robert says the season 7 also soft recon episode 3 with those in between interactions. Yeah, exactly. you because season 7 does go into Revenge of the Sith movie, so it invades the movie timeline.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so he's interacting with her in between, but then yet he doesn't say there's no mention of it in the movies.
Yeah, I think when he meets her, that's right before they go into the Battle of Coruscant. Obi-Wan actually talks to her after that. So, Obi-Wan should have said something, but.
And then when Obi-Wan went to go meet with Padme about Anakin's fall and stuff like that, why didn't he go to her? Why didn't he talk with Ahsoka?
Yeah, he could have had Obi-Wan could have gone to Padme's apartment and then had Ahsoka on, tried Ahsoka on call if she was busy, but she still could have tried.
And then why didn't Padme try to reach out to Ahsoka?
Yeah, because Padme knows who she is. She was her lawyer, sort of, in season 5.
Yeah, exactly. And then so Kyle says, isn't it funny that Kathleen Kennedy is involved in the stuff that these fans hate, yet isn't involved in the stuff they like? There's the thing is that she's the one, and it's even in the commentary, behind the scenes work on The Mandalorian, she's the one that approved Luke coming back.
That's right. And
Yep.
I love the whole thing of like, oh, she was banned from the set, and yet there's literally pictures of her on set with George Lucas. So
Yeah, in the beginning and like in season 1 and in season 2. So that's yeah. So if there was such a band, that would be all over the news. I'm sorry. Such with
yeah, it
a
would.
company as
Yeah.
big as it is, it would be all over the news. Oh, president's banned from the Mandalorian set.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's I don't know. It's just crazy. Okay, let's get out of that talk now. All right. So with the EU, what is your favorite novel? If you are like favorite series novel, or I mean, it's so hard to choose. There's so many good ones. I know there's some that are lackluster, but I would say are a lot better than what we're getting now.
I'll tell you my top 6 because I find it hard to pick just one.
Okay.
My top 6 would be Darth Plagueis, Shadows of the Empire, Vision of the Future, I, Jedi, Tatooine Ghost, and Luke Skywalker in the Shadows of Mindor.
Oh, okay.
Those are my top 6.
So is that from? Okay, so Shadow of Mindor is at the bottom or the top?
I don't really have an order. I just sort of like list them off.
Oh, okay. Because I know there's some people that I talk with that really don't care for Shadow of Mindor, but I got the direction that they were trying to go with that.
Yeah. Like, I think my biggest problem with that book was just like the nomenclature was very like Dungeons and Dragons-ish, like the names of the planets and the characters. And I like Dungeons and Dragons. It's just, it didn't feel like Star Wars names kind of.
Yeah.
But I love like what they did because like that was the moment where Luke put aside his military post or whatever, and he said, "No, I'm going to focus on being a Jedi." And then that great line that Matthew Stover wrote, where it was like, "None of the stories people tell about me can change who I really am."
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I thought that was brilliant with his character.
And that's where I think, again, like I said previously in our conversation, is that Disney took what, like, they did the opposite of what George Lucas's company did. Like everything that was good, they said, well, we'll do the opposite to that. So with that line, about Luke saying what people think of me isn't really who I am, they went and RJ or Ryan Johnson took and flipped that, saying like Luke, like, I don't want to be a legend.
Yeah, exactly. Which even contradicts the Mandalorian then of what happened there. So
exactly. Because if Luke was so focused on not being a legend and wanting people to perceive him that way, then why even take action?
Exactly. Just
because you're going to be known as a hero, and no one does anything to be a hero, but when people like say, oh well, and they praise you as a hero and stuff, that should never change your direction on still being that hero, still following your intentions and your beliefs and stuff.
Yeah, like even Anakin, like he wanted, like he was the chosen one, so he had that pressure, but he still, like, if you watch Phantom Menace, he still wanted to do like the right thing. So it wasn't about like, and years later he was known as like the hero of the Clone Wars, but he still wanted to do the right thing. And then same thing with Luke. Luke was just like this kid on a farm that just wanted to be right. Like he didn't care about power or glory or anything. Yeah,
he just did what he thought was right and everything. And so that's why I say that, Disney took everything that was good about Star Wars and did the opposite to it. And that's even like with Rule of Two, and Palpatine's return, even though Dark Empire was written before the full decision on direction, because the PT was already somewhat planned out, because it was even in the novels or in the comics and stuff on the direction they were going to go with the PT, right? But the origin of the Chosen One wasn't fully fleshed out yet.
Right.
And so when Dark Empire was written, and again, George liked it, he approved of it, right? After PT came out, there was those contradictions. However, you can also say that, like Mara Jade said, that I'm not really sure that was Palpatine anyways.
Like, yeah, exactly. So plus, like with Dark Empire, it's like I kind of, on the one hand, even after the prequel trilogy, I kind of, even though I don't like it, I kind of get it, because Plagueis was his master. He was experimenting with like eternal life, but also, and even though I don't like the idea of Palpatine coming back, at least the story in Dark Empire around that, like everything else, at least that was still good.
Right. And even with the prophecy that Boda Boss, I believe it was, made with Leia and Luke about the sister saving the brother, made sense.
Yeah.
It was like almost like their own prophecy regarding Palpatine.
Yeah, exactly.
which kind of solidified their journey and stuff. So I mean, so the story Dark Empire, as much as it could be, you could be known as quasi canon, I guess you can say, it didn't damage as much as the Rise of Skywalker did when it came to Palpatine's return.
Yeah, exactly.
There was absolutely no reason for them to bring it back, because the intention with Dark Empire wasn't to damage the story, right? It was to enhance the story, even though the direction of the Chosen One went the way George wanted it to go, right? But now there's no excuse for the Emperor coming back in the new stories.
Yeah, and again, Dark Empire was written before, so now that the full story's out, they had no reason to bring him back other than just we don't know what to do.
Exactly. We don't know what to do. We don't have it planned.
Yeah, plus Dark Empire, it wasn't meant to be the end-all be-all that like the episode, the Rise of Palpatine was. It was just like meant to be another story, and then there's gonna be more afterwards.
Exactly. And we got the birth of Anakin Solo, which was another great story that came out of that. And we got the Solo family, and then later on we got to see Ben Skywalker coming into the story as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go this way, even though it's not necessarily EU. What did you think about Leia? Basically, it was Han that suggested the name to Leia and their child Ben Solo, versus Luke's intention of naming their son Ben Skywalker. So what do you think about that?
Oh, I didn't know in Disney's canon it was Han that made the decision for the name.
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, I get to a degree. Yes, Obi-Wan was with them and like on the Death Star, but like Han didn't care at all about Ben. Like, what? Why was it? It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I was looking it up. I'm like, okay, so even with Leia, it still doesn't make that much sense, but at least there's some reason maybe of Bail Organa. Yeah, at least Bail Organa is like, because she says, he fought for my father in the Clone Wars. And this is going to go into Kenobi now, the Kenobi series, before we close this up. But anyways, so there's some sense in that because of what her father may have told her. But then again, she barely knows that his name is Ben. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if anything, she just knows Obi-Wan. Like, Luke said it to her once. He was like, I'm here with Ben Kenobi. And then, but it's still Obi-Wan to her. So
exactly. And so it makes somewhat sense, but it still doesn't correlate as much as for Luke, because he grew up knowing Ben in a sense. He was
like he was the old hermit across the Dune Sea.
Right. And that there's some instances where he appeared in his life, saving him from something or what have you. And so he had more significant, and then him finally getting his call through his hero's journey. And Ben is the one that, basically sets that in motion. And so there's it makes a lot more sense for Luke to name their son Ben than even for Leia. But for Han, no, it doesn't. I researched it because I was like, okay, who did this? Who? And it was Han Solo that made the suggestion. And I was like, that doesn't make sense, because he didn't believe in the Force. We could tell he knew of the Force, but he didn't believe in it. Just like people don't have to believe in all religions, right?
Yeah.
For example, and stuff like that. So, and then he didn't really welcome the old man that much.
Yeah, he called him an old fossil. I'm like, you don't name your kid after somebody like that.
Right, exactly. He's like, oh, he's just an old fossil, blah, 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 blah. So there's that. But then going into the story, the part where Leia states that, he fought for my father in the Clone Wars. Now, when we get into the Obi-Wan series, and we're not really supposed to be talking about this, but I just wanted to lay this down right now that's fresh in my head. When we get into the Obi-Wan series, and we have, we know that Leia is now casted. So there's someone casted for little Leia, right? We didn't hear anything about Luke, which doesn't make sense whatsoever. And so that kind of retcons the story of that, because she only knows Obi-Wan for fighting alongside or for her father in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And then what was I going to say? Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
maybe
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and then so that's another thing that I was like, oh crap, maybe I should talk about that later on. Is the fact that she refers to that.
Yeah, and I remember I was going to say, so in the Last of the Jedi, the first two Last of the Jedi books, when Ferris Olin contacts Obi-Wan,
Right.
it's within the first year,
Mhm.
whereas the show is going to be 10 years later, and I'm like, no. He's not leaving like 10 years after like he's ingrained into this planet now, in a sense.
Mhm.
So that like no, that doesn't jive with me.
Right. And I pointed out as well that Obi-Wan is making sure all loose ends are tied, right? To
Yeah.
protect the twins. And so that makes sense within like a year or year and a half after exile. And he gets news that, oh, this may happen. And he goes off on that mission, right? And he also helps fellow Jedi that are hiding, right? And kind of that they totally gave up the Jedi way. And stuff. And so that makes sense within the time frame, considered, not 10 years after he's established himself as a hermit and totally
Right.
just like took himself out of the story, took himself out of the events.
Yeah, because again, in Last of the Jedi, he was like that first year, he was still tormented. He didn't forgive himself, and then Qui-Gon had like the spirit of Qui-Gon has to like tell him like, okay, I'll look over Luke, but you got to do this for your fellow Jedi and to make sure the twins are safe. And then once Obi-Wan helps Ferris Olin and some of the other Jedi, and he does the whole Paulus Massa mission, like he's like, okay, this is what I have to do. Like that's the thing that cements him. And again, like year and a half in, not 10 years later, where like 10 years later, he's like contemplating like his role as Guardian. Like that doesn't make sense.
Right. He should be already established as a hermit, and out of, like even like when I don't recall when he fought Asherad or the son of him, but that was still on Tatooine. That was still on Tatooine, but that was to eliminate any knowledge of like anybody knowing.
Yeah, and even then, like that was still part of like being. I mean, again, it wasn't really a threat to Luke, but he was still on Tatooine. It was still a threat that he could just sort of handle there anyway. So it's not like he leaves again or whatever and then does it. No, it's right there on Tatooine.
Right. And then like even with him getting rid of everybody that can harm his mission, compromise his mission, like Aunt Annalene and her family and Oren Galt in Kenobi, the Kenobi novel and stuff, he makes sure that his mission of being exiled to protect Luke, continue training and all that stuff is not compromised any way, shape, or form. And that goes with people who have interest in him, like Annalene had interest in him, right? In her family and stuff. And so he totally said, I need to have you guys go elsewhere because you kind of compromise that, even though he didn't fully address what was the reason why. And then with even Oren Galt, even though, he didn't kill Oren Galt, he fell to his own demise, basically. It got him out of the way so that Obi-Wan can still be in solitude, in exile. And I don't think that the people who are cheering this on, I don't think that they are realizing, or maybe they never read the story, or even if they have, they don't realize that the impact of Obi-Wan, of the story, of the time frame, because Obi-Wan was one of, just like Qui-Gon, he was true to the Jedi ways. He was true to his mission. He never compromised his mission whatsoever. I see this as compromising his mission.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you don't even need the Kenobi book or Last of the Jedi to see that. Like just as a person, if you just go by the movies, like he wouldn't go 10 years later on a frolicking adventure on a blue planet. It's like that's not his character anymore.
Exactly. And then like even with the Last of the Jedi, as you mentioned, it helped him kind of settle into the reality of everything that happened and find a little bit more peace to what had happened between him and Anakin, or him and Vader, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's right. And it was also a story of like Qui-Gon set him on the journey of self-forgiveness.
Exactly.
Like, I thought that was really powerful too.
Right. And so now we have that he finally, forgave himself, finally came into peace with everything that had happened. which would help him further with his training and his mission in exile, right? To preserve the Jedi, to train Luke when the time is right, versus now what we're going to get where he's still loathing and he's still in, grief like 10 years later.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't mean to, like, we don't mean to sound like broken records, but the EU just did it better. And honestly, they just did it right. Like,
right, because they had the creator of Star Wars to confide in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he had to approve the Kenobi novel and like everything else, right? So
exactly. And yeah, so we're going to start closing up here. I like to keep the streams within 2 hours because it keeps attention span, like after 3 people start falling off, so it keeps this attention span still fresh. So with conclusion, what is your, like, when you first read the EU and stuff and started researching history, what was, like, how did it make you feel? How did it impact you?
I thought, again, this is what I said kind of at the beginning, it made Star Wars pretty unique. Like, I already loved Star Wars, and even before I read my first novel, and I went from there. Like, just reading Wikipedia articles, learning how everything connected, how George, like the level of involvement George was, it just set a good precedent for Star Wars under George Lucas. And like, it just made me appreciate it so much more. And I'm like, if I'm writing my own stories, then I got to make sure, like, I got to connect things and do this and that. And I think it's just a good lesson for world building and everything, honestly.
And that's the thing, is when they decided to make the EU canon to the movies and stuff, they seen how much the fans loved the continuity and how it connected, because they weren't really staunch about it beforehand, even though they said, here's Western Games, this is what's going on, let's try to connect everything. But when they realized that it was such that got the fans' attention, and it was the only franchise to fully, make all media outside the movies in one continuity, that was a game changer for them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
People realize that was a huge game changer. And so to mock George Lucas about saying, oh, he never liked the EU, blah 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 blah, I think that's I really think that either they're ignorant.
I think it's just a coping mechanism.
Yeah, or they don't like the EU themselves, and that and stuff. So we can go into so many different areas when it comes to that as well. But I think that it was such a great and smart move for George Lucas and Hoffman and all them to decide to make all outside material, all multimedia material, in continuity to the movies. It was such a beautiful, it's like 25,000 plus years of history in a fantasy, sci-fi fantasy that George and his company created. And he's even got, he even broke world record for so many books tied to movie sagas.
Oh yeah, it was in the Guinness Book of World Records, yeah.
Exactly. And then so Kyle says right here, it makes more sense for Luke to name his son Ben than it does for Leia to do so. However, I never really liked that Leia named her son Anakin in the EU. I thought it was a great pivotal moment for her, because that was her token of forgiveness, because we got done reading Trusat Bakura for a literature review. And during that time, she's like, she's like has her internal struggle with acceptance of her heritage, her father being Vader, Anakin Skywalker. But then within the book, she also realizes, like, Skywalker, the name Skywalker doesn't set her off like the name Darth Vader does. So that we see a little bit of her moving towards her heritage there, even though her forgiveness is not quite there yet.
And that's what I liked about Tatooine Ghost. That's about when she finds Shmi's hollow journals, or whatever they're called. And she realizes that, oh, the father that I knew, sorry, Bale, like Vader, it's like, no, he was just like this little boy who just wanted to do right, and then his life just got totally screwed up. Like the way I look at it is that Luke sees Anakin Skywalker, their father, as a Jedi hero, whereas Leia sees her father as the son of Shmi Skywalker. And to me, I thought Tatooine Ghost did a really good job, the book, of just tying that all together.
Yeah.
Like going from Bakura, where she didn't forgive him, to that, I was like, I thought that was a great way to do that.
Yeah. And then she also says too, and I remember that this was being mentioned as well, is that, and I think it might have been in Dark Empire or something, or maybe even afterwards, but she named her son after her father because she wanted the name of Anakin to be still known as good.
Yeah, and that actually goes with I think it was the radio drama of Return of the Jedi when there's like this line that Luke has in that where he says the name of, like, when he burns the body, he says the name of Anakin Skywalker will always be a beacon of light and hope for future Jedi and everything. So it ties with that.
Yeah. And the thing is, okay, so yeah, Bail, she's have always said that, you know, she's always seen Bail as her true father, even afterwards. Like, she still has a lot of respect and love and stuff. But the thing is, like, she had to grow and accept, or she had to grow out of it. She had to let go of the past. She had to come to terms with it for herself. The growth from her, from True Set Back Horror, even past that with her forgiveness, is phenomenal. Like, we even get Lady Vader. We even get Lady Vader, which shows that she's grown past, even though it still kind of gave her a little bit of cringe in the beginning. It still grows past, and gives her the growth of, the forgiveness. And I think that's a true forgiveness story that, people need to look into, because forgiveness can be, letting go. Forgiveness could be forgiveness for yourself so you can move on. And then forgiveness can also be a journey of exploration of, like, finding the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just went deep there. Sorry, you guys, but that's how I see that. But that's the beauty of the classical Star Wars, like movies, the novels and stuff like that, is that you have that. There's a lot of lessons and there's a lot of, like, deep material you can go into and really look into and you learn from. And that's what George intended it to be. It's supposed to be timeless. It's mythologies and themes of different various, things that we can relate to. So, yeah. And the Soul Assassin says, I assure you all I have the attention span of the Gundark. Who are you again? Oh, yeah, because we're coming up on 2 hours. I'm talking about the attention span of, like, okay, I'm done listening. I'm going to go ahead and go do something else. Not attention span of, like, losing your memory, like, oh. And Keck, naming a son after a Sith Lord who tortured her, she didn't name him Darth Vader.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. She didn't name him Darth Vader. Naming a son, naming a son after her redeemed father as a sign of forgiveness. Yeah, because he was redeemed. At first, she's like, I don't care if Luke said he's redeemed, whatever. But she had to come to terms herself. She had to have her own journey.
I thought that was cool in Truce of Bakura that his ghost came to her. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, right. And then also, too, he may be, like, made of the Force through Shmi, right? But he couldn't stay in Force Ghost form very long. I thought that was really good because it shows that that Force Ghosts, even though they're very powerful, what I get with what Obi-Wan said is that I have a power that I'm going to paraphrase that, I'm going to be more powerful than you can ever imagine, meaning that he's going to be the Force, that he's going to be one with the Force.
Yeah, because remember, Sith couldn't achieve immortality like that. Like, at best, it would be like a part of their spirit would be, like, attached to an earthly object or something. But they can never achieve being one with the Force.
Yeah, whereas Force Ghosts can move around freely. And then Keck says, I'm not an EU person. I heard about Jason Solo, never about Anakin Solo. That's the youngest son. That's the youngest brother or sibling. And then Robert says, Jason and Jaina were the Solo twins. Anakin Solo was their younger brother, correct? And then never knew Jason and Jaina were twins. Yes. Oh, my God. You have so much to get into. Oh, my God. We are here for you. So if you have any questions, let us know, because that's such a great story arc. Like George said, that the story, the saga, the stories about the father, the children, and the grandchildren. This is the grandchildren. And he even said it in 2015 at Tribeca that the grandchildren are the novels.
Yep.
So there you go. So Jedi Lukee, so do you have anything that's coming up for your channel in the future here? So go ahead and
my channel, I don't really do much on YouTube. It's just kind of like a hobby, but I might this week, if I'm able to, I might live stream my reaction to the new Halloween movie. Like, I'll do I'll live stream myself watching it. So other than that, I don't really do anything.
All right. So, all right, that's cool. I'm so happy to have you on my channel for this interview. It was
this was great. Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah, we can talk all day about this and stuff and do like a whole day live stream, I guess you can say, but I have other things to do. I have a life as well, and I'm pretty sure you have stuff to do as well. And so thank you guys again for coming in and tuning in. I know like me for 1 o'clock time frame is kind of an off time frame. So, but I'm glad that you guys all came in, listened to us. I love talking EU. I love the idea that I created out of this, because every single one of you guys that I interviewed so far all have your different experiences. And that's what I wanted with this, is that you share your experience with Star Wars EU. We get to see it through your eyes. So thank you again for coming on and having this chat with me. I always love talking with you on Twitter, you know, and you have so much insight with Star Wars, you know, so much knowledge as well, that you're truly a gift to the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And then thank you guys for coming in the chat. So
yeah, thanks everybody.
This Thursday for myself, I probably will be solo. Stig had surgery, if you haven't seen it, and so he's recovering. If he does make it, that's good. But I'm like, you need to just let yourself heal, you know, and so on. So I will probably think of a theme to talk about, and we'll just chat Star Wars and stuff, maybe latest news, maybe a little bit more about stuff that's happening. Who knows? So stay tuned. Coffee Chat is at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time Thursday. And I think this Wednesday is Babe the Menace, and I don't know whose channel. I think it might be Mary Mayhem's. So don't quote me on that. I'll share that later on. So I'll see you guys then as well. And talking EU this Saturday, I don't have the time in front of me, but I am interviewing Caffeinated Wolf, and he is so much into like the Old Republic era. That should be a fun talk with him as well. So you guys stay tuned for that. I will give you guys the time frame on Twitter here. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I shall chat with you guys later.
Yeah, thanks guys.